in terms of the gold jersey, obviously we saw you guys tweet out that Alonzo had won the first week. How's that kind of progressed over these most recent weeks?
The gold jersey? Yeah, Doosan has won it the last 2 weeks. You know, and for those of you who aren't familiar with what the gold jersey is, the gold jersey is given to the player on our team that in the previous week was the best player in practice. And in the month of October, practices are the longest of the year, the most competitive of the year. So generally, when somebody wins the gold jersey or starts to win multiple gold jerseys, I think it's easy for you to say as the coach that they're one of our team's best players or they're performing as well as anybody on our team. Statistically, in every competitive segment, even if it's a 2-on-2 segment, you know, everything that you can do in basketball, we keep track of statistically. The managers do a great job doing it, and every 6 or 7 days, we crown a champion. If you have the gold jersey in the next week, you wear it instead of blue and red, you wear your blue and gold, and you stand out for something that's good. And any competitive segment in our practices, we have a winner, loser. The loser runs. You don't have to run. You do no conditioning, which I think is something that is a great reward, again, especially in October, because when do you run the most? You generally run the most in these early season practices. So I think Alonzo won it the first week. We've had, I think, 3. We're getting ready to end maybe our 4th here. And Doosan has won it in back-to-back consecutive weeks. But the separation wasn't nearly as big. We had a couple other guys that were close to winning it. So we've had 3 champions, Doosan twice, and Alonzo 1 time.
I heard different things that Alonzo's been with you. What's his status and how's he been practicing?
I'll have no comment on Alonzo.
Is it still maybe a pending or appeal type situation?
Next question.
So no word if he's going to be there tomorrow.
I was taught a long time ago when I was 4 years old, no doesn't mean maybe. Maybe that's just Beaver County, Pennsylvania. But no doesn't mean maybe.
You can tell the fans what to expect tomorrow. Is he going to be there or not?
No doesn't mean maybe.
What do you think of Ristic's defense? How's that come?
You know, he's getting better. I think we take his improvement with a real understanding of where he came from. I would say Doosan, when he came to Arizona, was really up against it on that side of the basketball. Offensively, he's always been ahead of the curve, and his improvement on offense speaks for itself because you watch him score in the post, and obviously he has everything that you would want, especially great hands. Defensively, you know, it's some of it is learning, some of it is, you know, he's 7 foot. Not all 7-footers are agile, but he's learned how to be more physical. I think he learned and has continued to learn to be in the right place at the right time. I mentioned this to you guys in a couple of other conference times we've gotten together. This summer, you know, he boxed, not against another person per se, but, you know, that type of agility is really good for a big guy, especially in post defense and some of the things that maybe he was lacking. But Doosan has done everything that we've asked him to do. You know, trimmed his body in terms of body fat, gained strength, has worked tirelessly, and every day in practice he brings it. I mean, he's one of our team's hardest workers. So I guess, Greg, I wouldn't have a complete, this is definitely where he's at, but I think it's fair to say that he's in a better place right now than maybe he would have been a year ago. And we're going to need him through game experience to be better in that area. I think initially it's not fouling, you know, and staying in the game as he plays more minutes. But I think that if our team's to have a really good season, one of the things that we're all going to have to be able to point to in March would be the overall improvement of Doosan, not just offensively, but his overall, you know, feel for the game and his defensive ability.
Sean, was the boxing thing, was that more of a conditioning? Is there a skills part of that will help him?
Yeah, no, it's some conditioning, but it's really like balance. If you think about boxing, like, you know, hitting a bag, moving against somebody, you know, it represents how you play man-to-man defense in the low post. because it's a struggle, and yet you need agility. You know, it's not just, you know, where it's an offensive lineman engaged in a defensive lineman where it's just strength and quickness, you know, technique. In basketball, you're not really allowed to engage with him, right? So you have to be able to hit and move. And Dusan, he worked really for about 3 months doing it. But work ethic is one of his strengths. That's why you love him as a coach and as a teammate, because you know where he stands every day.
Is that a new training method, or, I mean, are other teams doing that? How'd you guys come in?
Yeah, you know, I think that Chris, you know, our football strength coach, and Chris Rounds, both Chris's, I think they got together, which I think says a lot about who those guys are, kind of worked together to help Dusan this summer. Is that?
How are the combinations going? You obviously have a lot of depth, so moving around a lot of people, and how's the working together been?
Good. You know, I think like every year at this time we have depth, and, you know, inevitably injuries and different circumstances can take it away. I think I've said this before. It's like your recruiting class. Every recruiting class is great. Then they get here and some are better than others. You know, depth-wise, what you think you have in the off season doesn't necessarily become what you thought you have. It becomes a different animal once you see everybody out there. But, you know, obviously on the perimeter we have a lot of depth right now. I think a couple of things. Raleigh Alkins is better than I thought he would be. And one of the reasons why I believe he's a better player than maybe I thought is I cannot believe how coachable he is. He's as humble and eager to learn as any, you know, newcomer we've had here. And because of that, his improvement has been astonishing. Defensively especially, you know, watching him when he first got here, watching him, for example, yesterday, and he just has made a lot of gains. And that's really important for our team because, as you guys know, defense at the beginning is what a lot of freshmen struggle with, and learning how to play with other good players on offense, where Raleigh, both of those things, I feel like his improvement is what you would want in every freshman. Almost every day he seems to be a little bit more comfortable, and his attitude is outstanding.
When he dunks left, he shoots right, and he seems to do both naturally. How hard is that to defend?
Yeah, he does. He likes to finish with his left hand, no question, it can be different. I think one of the media members earlier mentioned they thought he was left-handed, you know, because he can certainly do things with his left hand off the dribble. But his shot's improving, and you know, the thing that's striking about Raleigh is he's not a freshman physically. So he has an advantage. He's big, he's strong, he's in great shape. He's a great competitor, but that doesn't also mean that you have a tremendous attitude or you're a willing learner. He's that as well. And he's been a real pleasure to have around. I could have never predicted that he would be as easy to coach as he's been. And I don't mean that because I looked at him as being a malcontent, as much as you don't really know until they get here. And, you know, his high school coach, Joe Arbitello at Christ the King in New York, told me that I was going to be really surprised when we had a chance to work with him every day about what a great kid he is and how much he loves the game and how he's eager to get better. And he couldn't have been more right in describing Raleigh.
Along those lines of being surprised, has Lowry at all surprised you? We see him in highlights, you see him every day. Everything's expected of him this first year.
Yeah, you know, I think with Lowry it's a little bit different in that I find myself tempering expectations somewhat. I mean, he is a freshman. He's in a different country. You know, when you travel to see him in Finland like I did, if I pictured myself living there for the next 6 months, there's going to be an adjustment. And when these guys come to the United States, there's that same adjustment. So you have that plus a brand new game playing at a very high level. There's going to be some times where he's going to find bumps in the road. But Lowry is really talented, and we've talked about his skill level, his size. You guys have now seen him, and like Raleigh, and you know, he's getting better every day right now.
We saw him make a couple of threes in that red-blue game. Is that maybe what we can expect once the regular season? Does he have the ability to go from 2 to 3 threes to 5 to 7? I mean, how good could he be?
He can shoot the three-point shot. If you look at his statistics from this summer playing FIBA, that would tell you, keep in mind that line is further out than college. But you don't want him to be one-dimensional, you know, a face-up, pick-and-pop forward that only shoots threes, that's finesse. Lowry's 7 foot, 230 pounds. A big, I think, job of mine and our staff is to allow him to use that close to the basket, being an effective offensive rebounder. He's an aggressive kid. He's strong. Learning how to use his size to score, from 2, not just 3. Getting to the foul line, free throw attempts. You don't want somebody like Lowry shooting 1 or 2 free throws in a game. You want him to get to the foul line by driving the ball and posting up. It's like the question that Greg asked me about Dusan. Ditto for Lowry in the low post. It's when you play post defense for the first time in college, there is a real adjustment. You have to learn how to not foul, how to be physical, being in the right place. So those are things that I think early on that he'll struggle with at times, but his attitude is exceptional. And I think if you talk to our players, that's the one thing you'll learn listening to them. We have a freshman class that is really very, very coachable, eager to learn, eager to grow. And I would put Ray Smith in that class as well with Kobe. Those guys, it's fun to coach young, talented players who want to be better, who don't come in with all of the answers. And I think they've been willing to listen, to the older players like a Kadeem or Alonzo, who's back for his sophomore year, Parker. And that's really helped our first 20-plus days of practice.
I don't think you've had a guy like Lowry here, maybe Grant, Jared, maybe Xavier at all. I mean, he's kind of a different guy.
Yeah, at Xavier, one of the things we had during my time, at the end, was we really had 2 incredible face-up forwards. Justin Dolman, who's one of the best players in Europe today, and Derek Brown, who played in the NBA. Both would be face-up 4-men, really hard-to-guard types of players. And but the difference between Lowry and them is about 4 inches. So that's again the striking thing about him is he is 7 feet tall. So we're excited. I mean, love to be able to say and thank God that he's with us, and he's a fun guy to have and very talented, and the best is yet to come for him.
Last year in college basketball, 35% of all shots were three-pointers, which was an all-time high. Do you like that trend for college basketball? Do you see it continuing?
That's a really great stat. I didn't realize that. I think you have to look at your own team and feel like what are the strengths and weaknesses. The one thing, 1 out of 3 threes equals 1 out of 2 twos. If you think about if you're a 37% three-point shooter, that doesn't necessarily get anybody excited. But if you take good threes and you make 37%, that's a good shot for your team. Because 1 for 2 from 2, everybody signs up for 50% from 2. So I think it's to be selective with the three-point shots that present themselves with your own team, but as a player, really understanding what's expected. A good three-point shot for somebody like Gabe York wouldn't be maybe right now the same for Raleigh. But that doesn't mean that we don't want Raleigh to take threes. We're going to look at his attempts in a different light. But I don't know how that will work for our team this year. We at the 4 position a year ago, we didn't have a three-point shooter unless Mark Tollefson would have slid over there, which he did very rarely. This year, with Lowry being there a lot, Ray Smith occasionally being able to slide over there, we have a 4th three-point shooter out on the court. But I think the statistics that are the most meaningful are free throw attempts and overall field goal percentage. So that's how we judge our offense.
You mentioned Ray. How has he progressed, Ray Smith?
Ray's doing great. Man, I knock on wood when I say it because I think it was around this time last year we lost him. But he's had no setbacks. Obviously, it's a real credit to Ray and our team doctors, Justin Kokoski, Chris Rounds, Ray himself. They've worked tirelessly around the clock for a year to put him in this position. And I believe that Ray, I treat him like a freshman in my own mind, meaning that, he's missed so much basketball that he is a newcomer, even though he was here with us last year, that he gets better, he improves every 3 to 5 days. And I'm saying that word a lot because regardless of where we start as a team in November, I believe that this year's team has a chance to improve and grow as the year goes on because a lot of the people you're asking me about just started. They just got here at Arizona. So I'm hoping that the upside is something that we can match as the year goes on.
What are you most looking to see tomorrow, assuming this is a team in College of Idaho that you can beat? Are you most looking to see some of these individual performance, how well a certain group plays together on the team? What are you most going to look for?
Well, tomorrow provides us a couple of opportunities. One is, we have a shoot-around. So every game you have a shoot-around 5 hours before tip-off. It gives us an opportunity to have a real shoot-around. That sets the tone for performance. Scouting, we won't scout this as much as maybe we'll scout game one, but we have a lot of players who've never been through a scouting report. They don't understand the details that go into it, so we're going to be able to give them a dry run of that. And then, it's the first time that we have our entire team sitting on our own bench, and usually the malcontents or the families of certain players, once that first game happens, you truly get to understand who they are. Because when they lose their mind after the first exhibition game, it's going to be a tough road. And then there's those others that I think you learn the opposite, where they clearly understand where they are in the rotation. Maybe they're a starter, maybe they're not. So I think from a team attitude, chemistry, it gives you a real benchmark of where you're starting at. Each year that's been different for us.
And it's obvious that you get that, the malcontent stuff that you were talking about?
Every year it's different. Sometimes, it rears its ugly head right away, and other times you get through a big stretch early on where it's truly about just coaching, and guys understand that the gold standard isn't something that we just post in our locker room, but it has real meaning towards who starts, who plays, and how that works. So not until you get to that first game do they really embrace and understand that this is how we do things. So that's the other byproduct of playing a game against another team, that you learn the dynamics outside of just the X's and O's, but really who cares about each other, and I think who's going to embrace the role that we have for them.
Well, being as you have 2 exhibition games, you treat it differently this time, or could the rotation be an indication of where things stand?
We're going to start the players that we would start as if we're playing a real game tomorrow. We're gonna play it like a real game. We're not going to experiment. I think because that would send the wrong message.
Well, I guess I was wondering, because you're usually, the past few years, you played that closed exhibition or scrimmage, and wondering, are there things that you liked out of that you're going to try and do in this one, since you don't have that opportunity this year?
No, there's some real benefits to playing especially a team like St. Mary's. They're obviously well coached, an excellent program and team, and we learned so much behind closed doors that helped us. We don't have that opportunity this year, but we'll have a different type of opportunity with 2 games in front of our home crowd. And like I had mentioned, playing in front of the public allows you to learn more about how each of our players are wired, and I think them being able to truly understand the role. In a scrimmage, you don't get that as much because everybody plays in a scrimmage. So when that ends, although you learn a lot about your team, some of the chemistry parts you don't know enough about.
Do you know who you're going to start, and can you say, or you're still?
I don't know yet. I'll know tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Coach, how do you feel about Kobe Simmons' development at point guard, and what are some of your biggest takeaways after the Red Blue game and what you saw in it?
Kobe's had his best 4 days at Arizona, the last 4 days, which is great. We've played him at 2 positions, like I mentioned from day one, both the 2 and the 1. I think I find sometimes that when you try to do that, big picture, that really helps the development of him as a player. Short term, it sometimes can make things frustrating because he's really forced to learn a lot. So what we've done recently is we've played him more off the ball. We're still teaching him the point guard, but trying to get him more comfortable at something here initially, and then being able to branch back out and maybe give him more of the 1. But he'll play at both the 1 and the 2. But he's very, very talented, very bright. The comparison that I'll give you with Kobe is he reminds me a lot of Nick Johnson. They're both incredible athletes. Nick became a great defender. I think Kobe has that same upside. And offensively, they can do a lot of different things. Kobe caught an alley-oop dunk yesterday, and he threw an alley-oop to Chance. Very few guys can catch one and throw one, but that's who he is. And I think his shot, he's got a beautiful looking shot. It'll even out as the year goes on, as he learns how take a good one and, you know, how to get set. But I'm really pleased, especially because he was slow and steady for a while, but he's really jumped up, I'd say, the last 4 days, which is very good for us.
And Sean, we can't see these practices. Is there any one battle going on at two positions or battle for one position that's really stood out to you?
You know, I think in the low post, Chance Comanche might be our team's most improved player. You know, being 220 pounds versus, 210 a year ago is night and day difference. And if you consider that Chance weighed 187 when he arrived on campus, that spring, that's a lot of weight, but it's a lot of good weight. But he's much stronger. It's experience is everything. And, our game, unfortunately, a lot of people don't talk about that now. It's almost like a negative when you say somebody's back for their junior or senior year. But in Chance's case, he's just a young sophomore. But the practices that he went through a year ago, going against Caleb every day, Ryan Anderson, I mean, I think he missed maybe one practice all of last year. And if you remember at the end of the year, he started to come on. I played him more. He's just picked right up where he left off. And at times, he almost won the gold jersey this past week, which again shows you. So with Chance, we're going to play him at both the 5 and the 4. I think he makes us, depth-wise, even bigger and stronger. And we're really counting on him to be a much improved player from last year. So the race between who's going to start there, who's going to play there, is really up for grabs in some level, because they're really even across the board in a lot of things.
Who's he going up with against in practice?
We mix it up, Doosan, and then sometimes Doosan and him play together. He would go up against Lowry. I would also just tell you guys this. You don't ask me a lot about Keanu, but Keanu is a lot better of a player than I anticipated. He is going to help us. He might be our best low post defender. He is one of our toughest, most physical players. He does the dirty work. He's on the floor for loose balls. He sets great screens. He's an active rebounder at both ends, knows his role. And it's that depth inside that I'm the most excited about right now, because between Lowry and I think where he is now and where he'll be, Doosan as a junior, Chance, which I just talked about, Keanu, and then we can always slide Ray Smith over there. So we have really, 4.5, 5 players there, so to speak, that we can rotate at those two positions. And we plan on doing that.
You have 3 guys that are from different, Serbia, Finland, and Australia. What's it like building team chemistry when you have guys from different countries and cultures come together?
It's awesome. It's one of the things you love about coaching. It's just listening to them describe their culture. They think differently at times. But the one thing that I'll talk to you about with those 3, they are the most coachable, the most compliant, hardest working, about the team guys that we've had. I mean, I think it says a lot about how their culture brings out family and team. And I think in the sport of basketball, it's not a race to get to becoming a first-round pick. It's so much about, I think, learning the game and developing, and whatever pace they're on is the pace they're on. But we're really, I think, excited to have those 3 guys as part of our team. They foster team chemistry. Each of them in their own right are tremendous teammates. And you ask our team, I mean, they bring a smile to your face. You know what you're getting before you ever show up at practice. And again, that's a real compliment to each of those 3 and their families.
Basketball their first choice, all of them? Was basketball their first choice growing up?
Yeah, I think so. They don't know a lot about American football, which I find interesting. We're wired to watch college football in the NFL, where they're wired to watch soccer. Lowry's older brother plays professional soccer over there in Europe, so that's their first or second love, and they'll tell you that.
How much would you anticipate Kadeem sliding back to point guard during the game?
He'll play point guard for sure each game. Kadeem is our leader, and he's one of our best leaders we've had. He has learned how to play hard. He's come such a long way in the last couple of years, and I wouldn't have to take a poll with our team to learn who they think is the leader. He is the leader. And it's, you know, he has some others that he's going to need to help him along. But in terms of his intent, his ability to work hard, play both ends, you know, embrace our system, somebody who loves to win, wants to win, shows up every day. He leads by example. And, you know, to his credit, he's been much more talkative and verbal than I would have ever imagined. And I think he's the loudest voice in the gym if you're at our practice, which is great to see. And it makes sense because Kadeem's road to getting here, you know, he's in his 5th year. And because of that, he has more experience than anybody else on our team. And I think that really shows when you watch us practice.
So at this point, maybe early on, would he be, if you use him a lot too, maybe does he play behind Parker maybe at the point? You're saying Parker kind of merged at the point. I didn't know, is Kadeem maybe right behind him?
Yep. I would say that Parker has emerged. But I think that throughout the course of a long season in the game, foul trouble, rest, you know, Kadeem is somebody we like to play there, give our team a different look. But Kadeem's going to play off the ball more this year than he has a year ago, than he did a year ago.
And with what you've been saying about Keanu, is it even, is it for sure you're going to use him? I mean, is it silly to even think that he might redshirt at this point?
He has zero chance to redshirt. He is by far in our rotation and somebody that is going to help us win a lot of games.
Sean, one absence from the roster is Trey Mason. What can you tell us about his decision not to return?
I wish him well, and he's a student here, and I know he's on track to graduate. I'm sure he's going to go on and do great things in life.
How would you categorize the relationship right now between the Masons and the basketball program?
Next question.
Sean, I'm doing a magazine story on Hughes Federal Credit Union and your connection with them. Why them, and how's it been? Hughes, your commercials?
You know, they're a partner of IMG. They're a partner here with the University of Arizona. And they're tremendous people, great organization. And, you know, I think from my perspective, I'm really happy to be their partner.
Do you like doing those commercials? Some of them are QVC, some of them are funny, whatever. Do you enjoy doing that type of stuff? Because you're pretty much straight and narrow guy. You're, you know, focused, if that's the right word.
You know, in a job, you always have some things you like more than others, you know, but I really enjoy them as an organization, and they've been great to our athletic department, our basketball program, and tremendous people.
Any one commercial better than the other, or funny for you, or favorite?
Not really. Yeah, they all blend together at this point.
Coach, how important has Book Richardson been to your program?
Well, Book has been with me as an assistant coach longer than anybody else. And it's like Chris Rounds and myself being together for 13 years. I don't know if there's a strength coach and a head basketball coach who have a better rapport relationship. And that translates to the kids, the team. And Book has been with me for a decade, so that's a long time, especially when I've only been a head coach for 13 years, right? So 10 of the 13 he's been with me. But he's a great guy. Players love him. I think he's got a bright future. But, you know, I'm fortunate to have a tremendous staff, really am. You know, Joe Pasternak as our associate head coach, Mark Phelps. Both of those guys have been head coaches. And, you know, I call on them, count on them way more than a lot of times it appears. You know, the head coach a lot of times gets credit in recruiting, but the lion's share of the recruiting is done by your staff. And, you know, I think that, you know, I wouldn't trade my staff for any. So, thank you.